Glam's incredible run, Escape from Dukkha. This game is tough as nails, hard on the hands, and eventually wanting for a checkpoint system in the stages with multiple rounds of pixel-perfect puzzle platforming. It's the occasional bugginess of the controls which make Glam feel like overkill without those checkpoints, alongside the nightmarish hitbox registration. To explain, your character has a lot of moving edges, and it doesn't feel like they're always obvious when it comes to spikes. Your character also slides some or walks forward after hitting the top of a climb. Plus you've got an unwieldy number of jump heights, swing distances, momentum builds, etc. to account for. Most games will give you 2 or 3 pressure sensitive jump heights, for example. This one's got at least 5. And it's like that for everything you're dealing with. Also, there are way too many times where the game doesn't want to register what you're hoping it will in that wide range. There are games like Cuphead, where you know the failure is almost always your fault, as much as it may suck to admit. Games like Hollow Knight or Electronic Superjoy, where you're slightly less to blame for the overall death toll. And this one's just a little bit further down the ladder of control misses, just enough to be on that unforgivable line while not firmly across it. Glam is one of the most inventive puzzle platformers I've ever played, which was fully unexpected as an admittable truth. It even has a 2-player campaign where you have to survive alongside one another. Think Portal 2's co-op in terms of design. That part of the game has 60 stages too, something which really shows just how much passion went into the title. But this thing's difficulty is not for the faint of heart, those prone to rage quitting, or those who can't forgive mildly sloppy controls. The stages tend to be short enough that retries aren't an overwhelming ask. I actually took the completion pretty slowly and looked forward to playing it daily in my free time, but I doubt I'll ever play it through again, because a small number of stages took hundreds of deaths to clear, dragging to a crawl what's otherwise a worthy opponent for fans of games that don't go easy on you. There are actually chapters where I know I'd have stopped shy of the platinum had I accidentally skipped over one of the collectible tapes, because you have to play the whole damn chapter up to that point again to have it register all collectibles obtained. I'd go as far as saying this is slightly harder to plat than both Cuphead and ESJ2. I was hoping to find a speedrun community for the title, considering it's so good in terms of skill ceiling and stage designs, but there's little I saw. Likely because the tight clearances and unreliable controls make it nearly as unappealing to tackle as Dead Dungeon. Or maybe it's just the cutesy runner vibes the title and artwork give off, which are keeping folks from realizing what a hardcore roller coaster this thing is. I've seen YouTubers splice their best stage clears into videos that give the impression this plat could be done in 2 hours. That would be a no-death run though, and I'd wager my entire future on no one in the world ever accomplishing that here without lots of currently unknown glitches, exploits, and or cheat codes. Just one of the hundreds of stages will often require 5+ minutes of muscle memory building. And even if you got ridiculously good at memorizing the game's mountain of challenge, your hands will wear down long before that 2-hour completion happens. It's the holding R2 which makes this so difficult, though the potential for blisters on the right thumb is serious as a heart attack as well, plus the left thumb if, like me, you tend to stick with the D-pad. The buttons can be remapped, but I couldn't think of a less intense layout. I'd love to see some uncut speedruns of single chapters nonetheless at some point. Having endured this game personally, I know I'd watch them, and it's one of the few games in existence where 2 players could try speedrunning a co-op campaign that's arguably harder than what some of the normal campaign dishes out. Just don't let the spliced footage out there fool you. At least a third of these stages will involve a high volume of deaths you're not seeing in those edits. Or they're done by someone who's been playing this game obsessively to the point that they're many times more competent than you'll be the first 10 times through the campaign. There's no written guide, but I'd say the platinum difficulty is a solid 8 out of 10, and will take determined gamers at least 6 hours to complete. The reality is likely to be double that for most though. One cool thing you'll probably notice if you reach a stage you're struggling to clear and go looking for someone else's footage is that there tends to be more than one way to get something done, which ends up being the game's saving grace in spots. For example, there's a stage where you're expected to launch yourself up from a hair swing, and my character refused to do this ever. Luckily, some spike hitboxes have the smallest of harmless edges, and I was able to exploit that to clear the stage by jumping over the swing altogether. Plenty of what I'm talking about doesn't involve exploits though, just approaching the puzzle and platforms in a different way. The game's filled with aha moments and challenging yet fair levels, so it's just too bad the experience is occasionally ruined by the more ridiculous bits and controlling woes, hence why I can't call the game great. No trophies are missable, which is nice, but plenty of them may as well be. I'm not sure if you've got to collect all the tapes to get a chapter clear trophy or simply beat each available screen, but since part of this is getting all the tapes, you may as well chase them up front as well. It may look like certain trophies are glitched, but none of them are. The reason, for example, that you see Chapter 5 more commonly cleared than Chapter 4 in the trophy list is owed to Chapter 4 having a stage screen you could easily miss ever entering. So if you're missing a tape or a chapter trophy after thinking you bested everything, you need to play through it again with an eye open for screens with multiple exits and go through the one you hadn't noticed before. One nice thing about this chase is that even though there's no individual stage select, a feature which would have been super welcome, you can simply grab a missing tape and finish that single level in order to have it register. I can definitely appreciate not having to clear the entire chapter a second time around, or not having to recollect tapes I previously did in order to meet the trophy requirements. Also, consider that I beat the last 10 stages or so of the ridiculously difficult Chapter 9 while I was intoxicated. That should tell you that this plat is doable, but I'd also point out that it took thousands of deaths in total to get me through the campaign. Absurd in its fun-breaking design philosophy, but not to the time-eating point that I'd put it on par with something like Silksong. Replaying most skill checks took tens of seconds to reach the uncleared challenge yet again, instead of tens of minutes. And it's that easily retriable feature which makes this one an 8 for difficulty instead of the 9 I'd otherwise call it. So long as you collect all the tapes, access the character customization screen, finish all 11 chapters, die in the first chapter, and beat one chapter without dying, the plat is yours. And that no-death chapter is easier than it sounds. Because the game only saves when you quit to the main menu or clear a stage, you can hard quit the title if you happen to die, then turn it back on and continue with said death not being registered. This is best done in Chapter 1, by the way. When it comes to heart, lots of love went into Glam's build. You're expecting your 2 powers to be all that there is to the game, outside of the occasional enemy or spike trap, but each chapter adds a unique element to the mix, and does not simply use it to the same end over and over again, but instead consistently asks and answers the question of just how much can be done with the new ingredient. To use a cooking analogy, new chapters don't just add chocolate and have you bake ever more chocolate chip cookies. No, you'll be making chocolate cake, chocolate fudge, hot chocolate milk, and so on. Then you'll be on to cooking with fruit in the following chapter. Because of this, I will loudly recommend the game to just about anyone who likes an addictive and rewarding challenge. Just know going in that it's fairly flawed. I want to rank it up there with Celeste for design brilliance or with Cuphead for not wasting time getting to the action. But it's missing plenty of what makes major titles so memorable, like story and bosses, and the control aspect is just too iffy, alongside some stages being entirely too hardcore. Still, this is one of the few plats I'm legitimately proud to have in my collection, and considering it wound up being my 485th, I think that's saying something. So go give it a try as well if you think you've got what it takes. Spoiler alert, with enough patience, almost everyone does.